Today on Gamer's Couch.
Paperback.
Hello.
Hello, we interrupt your current investigations for the Pokemans in the wild by bringing you this brief discussion of a game that is played while not traveling with your phone in hand. Although we appreciate you being here. And to keep your attention, please look at this Psyduck. Thank you. Now I have to go and find some more Pokemon.
No, later. When we go food shopping, you're allowed to do... I'm driving and you can search for Pokemon. And I might even stop at one point or another.
Or I just have to roll out of the car and get that.
That too. If I lose you at the supermarket, it's not because you run away and you don't like me anymore. It's because you found a Pokemon. Today, we talk about a lovely card game called Paperback, as we just announced. And my sweet husband, Daniel, Psyduck, and I, we will, share rules and gameplay with you. Then we talk about what we liked or not liked about the game. Tell you a bit about funny stories and experiences that we had while playing. And at the end, we do have a teaser for the new Draw For initiative next week. So, sweetheart, do the talking. I try to waken up completely. Meanwhile.
Oh, sure.
No!
Please continue entertaining those fine people on the internet. They don't have anything else better to do than to watch.
Well, in the thumbnail, I was holding a book. And
okay,
it's called Lost Empire by Clive Cussler. And he's a very nice thriller author. And if you haven't thought about that by now, by all the names and words we dropped, this is about novels, writing, words, and stuff. Now, rules and gameplay. Explain.
As Sarah already said, this game, the game Paperback, is, I'd say that the quickest way to describe it to you is it's a mashup out of Scrabble and a deck building game like Dominion, and it even credits Dominion for its deck building mechanic, and it got inspired by that. Different from Scrabble, you don't have a game board. You have a bunch of cards in front of you, and you have a set of starting cards that you work with. There are wild cards, and I'll talk about that. And I know there's an English version of this, but in the German version of the Wheel of Fortune, it is called the Ernstel, which is a weird Bavarian typish sounding type of saying somebody is serious or something is serious.
Yeah, or it's a diminutive for a name, a male name, Ernst. The tiny little Ernstel went to the supermarket and got himself some ice cream.
Both Ernst is serious. So
yeah.
So you start with these 5 cards. You may immediately recognize that you have no vowels in there, which makes it difficult to make words with that. But bear with me for a second. The other 5 cards you have are so-called wild cards. Every wild card has a question mark on the top and can be used as any letter as you wish to. The downside of this, let's say you want to form the word star, and by the way, you draw 5 cards from your deck. You obviously have to shuffle that, and if you're lucky enough to come up with the word star, and let's say that your 5th card...
Starlet.
Actually, let's do stars. Let's say these are my 5 cards that I drew at the beginning, STR, and these 2. Now, as I said, stars, I substitute A and S with these 2 cards. Now, having done this, the first thing we're going to do is to count how many letters my word has. 1 letter, 2 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters. So we have a 5-letter word here without any counts being printed. Whatever. So There's a so-called common card that you would get if you are able to form a word that has at least that many letters. Now 5 is less than 7, so I'm not getting the E. I'm also getting to why the E is there in a bit. But I will now count my word, or the value of my word, and that's the number below these top letters. So in this case, my word is worth 3 cents. And that's the downside of the wild cards. They are worth nothing, nil, nada, null. That's why you maybe don't want to use them too much. Now, with that amount of money, your newfound riches, you can go forth and buy cards. And cards have a little price tag on the bottom left. They are stacked up, so you have 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. And these, the last stack consists of cards that are worth 8 to 10 cents. Then you can buy as many cards as you can afford. There's always 2 cards open for selection. If you buy the lower one, you just put the next one down here and replace it with the other one. Now, what about this common card thing? Well, during your turn, you can use that common card letter in your word once. Let's say I want to make, since these are not that useful, I could make another word, and I could make the word stern. So STERN. I have to leave a gap where I want to use that common card, and as I said, I can only use it once, so I can use it twice in different positions in the word. Since obviously this is a stern situation. Now, this common card is also worth 1 point. So with stern, I would have 4 cents to spend and could buy a potentially better card. Now you may ask, well, if you get this card, if you form a word with 7 letters, how would you ever get to 7 letters? Well, you see there are some cards here that use more than 1 letter, in this case 2. There are also cards available, for example, like this V over here that says +1 card on your next hand. So when you're done with your word and have purchased cards, newly purchased cards get to your discard pile, then you put all the cards you drew also to the discard pile and draw 5 new cards, plus any bonus you might have gotten from those cards. So the way that works is if you form a word and put it down, and that word has, let's say, I should have prepared this.
Saline. SALINE, if you use the common word. And now you know who likes words. SALINE, saline.
I'll just trust her with that. So let's say I have SALI, and the E would go to the rest. So the first thing I do with my word here, which you don't see, which is unfortunate for you, let me put this here. Which I do first is I can check if there's an action on this. So this one says +1 cent per wild in word, and suddenly these 2 wild cards are worth money. So I would have with the E here actually a 6-letter word with 1 point for each card, and could now buy a 6-cent card or 2 3-cent cards if I wanted to. Anyway, I bought this card, so I should now replace this with a new one. So the game progresses with you buying more cards, being able to form better words. These 2-cent cards are all vowels, but you have to trash them after use. There are different effects here. Some give you more cards on hand. Some let you straight pick up a card worth up to a certain amount. Others will double the score of some other card that's around here. So let's say you buy a really high value card like these here, which give you 5 cents once you play it, and you put this one next to it. Good luck with forming a word with Q and L right next to them. But that would technically then score you 10 points for the Q, which would be amazing. So how do you actually win the game? Well, There's also these 4 stacks down here, and these cards are just regular wild cards. But there's one thing on those cards, same as with your starting wild cards. This little star down here are your victory points. So this actually is what you will count at the end of the game to determine who wins. And lo and behold, these cards cost a lot of money, but they are worth a lot more victory points than your starting hand. So these 5-cent cards are worth 4 points, 8 are 7, 11, 10, and the 17-cent card is worth 15 points. The game ends if 2 of those stacks are empty, of these fame card stacks, and you obviously made a fortune by writing, well, page turners, I guess, or, well, novels. There's another way this game can end. As I said, if you form a word that has a certain amount of letters, you get this common card now into your deck, and a new common card is revealed. So the next one, to get that, you need to you need to form a word that is worth 8 letters and so on. If that last card here is taken, this also ends the game, and you see immediately these cards are also worth victory points. So you can either try to buy out these stacks here and get victory points that way, or form long words, and that may even not be worth that much money, but just being long words and having a lot of cards on hand, just giving you a slightly different approach to winning the game. Well, that is the base structure of the game. Interestingly enough, this game comes with, I might say, it's almost like modules, expansion modules, little things you can add or change that affect the gameplay. For example, there are some cards in here that you can either leave out or leave in, which are called attack cards. These are just regular cards and give you just a regular letter, but say something like attack, -1 card next hand, meaning when you form a word with this letter, you just leave it in front of you until the next time it's your turn, and everybody who's drawing a new hand has to draw 1 less card. Or this one is -1 cent for each wild in word. Really annoying. I can tell you, you won't be making a lot of friends or readers with those cards. Other interesting things you can do. There are some alternate or new common cards in here that just get mixed in with these. You still just work with 4 common cards, but these can replace some of the vowels. The spacebar, which allows you to create 2 words out of your letters, and they don't have to necessarily be related. I mean, it's cool if you can do that, but there's no extra points for you if you do. It still counts as a letter, and it also gives you a little cent thing on this. There's the dyslexic. You can reverse a 2-letter card. So usually if you buy one of these cards, the ER card or AN card, you have to use those 2 letters in that order as they are on the card. With the dyslexic thing, you can turn them around and again get a little bit of extra money there. You can also introduce a theme card, and a theme card goes to whatever player makes a word that fits the theme that is printed on here. There's some example words on this card as well, just to give you an idea what everybody should be looking out for. In general, the entire group will be voting on if someone has won this card, and these are worth victory points at the end of the game. But don't do that too early, or well, it might happen that someone else is stealing this back from you. So if you get one of these cards, let's say Sarah made a word that was revolver, and later on I make a sheriff or any other Western-themed like cowboy or any other word, I steal that card from her. So only he or she who keeps this card last will benefit with those 5 points in there. Just a little thing to spice things up, to reward a little bit of direction in your word building. Another thing you can do is, and these are all just individual little modules, so you can play with one, with all of them, or just leave some out. There are awards where you would just select one, and if you meet the conditions of this card at the end of the game, for example, the player with the most cards in their deck gains this card, this gives you some extra points. Or this one with the fused wilds in card, or proofreader with the most J, Q, X, and Z in their deck, and so on. Again, giving a bit more direction to what you're doing. And then there's something, at least I found most pleasing about those, the powers, where each player gets a random power that they can use once per turn. For example, plagiarism. Once per turn you may copy a letter in your word. Copied letters do not score or have an ability. Wilds and two-letter words cannot be copied. So just allows you to make some, letter words. For example, if you're just missing one T, you can do that extra T with that. Once per turn after drawing, if you reveal a card with no wilds, draw a card. So stuff like this, which is pretty useful. So much for the little gameplay stuff that you can put in here to spice that up. In general, this game is competitive, so everybody's playing for themselves and trying to get the most victory points at the end of the game. Very similar to Dominion in the terms of when should you start buying these cards and score with all that stuff, and work things out with that. In the manual, there's also more little expansion or variation ideas that use these wooden cubes here, where you can score a cube for helping out another player. So a player might say, hey, I'm having real trouble finding how to make a at least semi-coherent word out of this mess of jumbled letters. So they can earn, or you can earn, one of those cubes by helping them out, and later on you can spend one of those cubes to get ascend or use them otherwise. Another way how these cubes are used is by playing an entirely different version of this game that is in fact cooperative. So in this case, you obviously wouldn't work with the attack cards, but there's actually not that much keeping you from, for example, adding in like these alternate common cards and stuff like that. So in the cooperative mode, you will stack these fame cards in a pyramid shape. Now it's probably interesting for you to see. Yeah, the duck has to move a little bit. So now you know what these cards look like. I can make a little space. And build a small pyramid here. A pyramid scheme, so to speak. So I moved that up. It's the other way around. If you watched us talk about Seven Wonders Duels, you should know that I should know better by now. But that I actually, using those patterns from Seven Wonders Duels, you don't have to use this pyramid, and the manual recommends trying out other patterns. Try out one of those from Seven Wonders Duels. It might work out for you. So the way this now works is both players are working together. And the rule here is that if you don't buy one of these cards after your turn ends, you have to put a cube on one of those revealed cards. So I may not put a cube, for example, on Dead Planet. It's still covered up by those two cards. If a card should ever get its fifth cube placed on it, both players lose immediately. Those are not eggs. Both players lose immediately. So at the beginning, you probably will try to spread them out and for somehow keep them out of your deck, because you kind of want to build up your deck to then be able to buy the more expensive cards that certainly come up later. To buy you some time. Once you buy a card, it goes into your if it goes into your deck and it's not thrown in the middle of the table, then it's just used as any other wild card there. And you just try to continue buying off all of these cards while constantly being under the pressure of having to deal with more and more expensive cards until you buy off the 17-cent card at the end of the game. There's also even an alternate version suggested, which is not necessarily a cooperative, it's also competitive. But in that, you don't have these stacks of cards available to you, but mix up just 10 cards out of these, and players are starting with 12 cards instead of the usual starter deck of these 10, because they will draft 2 cards from these, and everybody is playing simultaneously, meaning someone does and everybody tries to form a word, and he who has completed a word first shouts really loud so everybody else notices, and actually someone has to take note of who's first, second, third, and whatever fourth. And in that order, you get to buy cards from those 10 cards that are available for drafting each turn before everybody else is, and then it gets filled up later on. Which is just an interesting twist to that. Certainly favors those who are able to form quick words sometimes, or maybe want to go with a word that's worth less money, but allows them to choose a card before everybody else. Well, paperback at you.
Wonderfully explained, honey. Let's go into the next section.
Let me drink my editorial coffee, and you may...
The duck helped explaining.
You may now say if you like or dislike this game, or some parts of it, or all parts of it, or parts like, parts dislike, or... I shouldn't drink so much coffee.
Mm-hmm. Likes and dislikes. So this is a sweet little game. I would classify this as a dinner game, but depending on how many modules you use in one game, it might even take a bit longer and then be a solid, I'd say, family game. There's, of course, things I like about it a lot, and then there's things that I say, yeah, that's cool, but nothing too fancy there. First of all, things that I really, really like, and that has nothing to do with the gameplay, is, for one, the art style, and second, the little word puns that happen throughout the manual, the cards. I mean, even the box, it says a novel deck building game. It's just very cute how they have some word puns or stuff in the game, like throughout little things, like these novels that are the fame cards are all written by a very famous author called Page Turner, and she has, for example, where is The Vicious Triangle. They would kill each other to win her love, and she would let them, which is a very dark version of the Twilight books. So there's just very tiny little word puns in the game, and I really like that. Also, just again, not being in any way connected to the gameplay, the box itself is really cool. It has a very well, I don't want to say unique format, but you don't see that very often if it's not, let's say, Cards Against Humanity or something. So the quality of the box and the artwork and just the shape and stuff, the colors that are used, is just very, very cute and very much to my liking. One thing that component or quality-wise I'm maybe not as fond of is that some of the cards, when you shuffle them, they get those used distressed edges really, really quickly. We only played that a couple of times, and we're usually very careful with our games. We're not throwing them as he's just
Hulk smash.
Maybe
the card
No, we don't do that, and still we have a lot of distressed edges at our cards already. So that was something where I say, not perfect, but yeah. I mean, maybe it was done with intention, because the game box has kind of a vintage distressed art style look as well. So maybe they just want to have the the game components be the same way, just to have everything fit together. I don't know, I'm rambling. So for the gameplay, I'm a huge sucker for word games. Once a year, he has to play Scrabble with me. He has to. He doesn't really like playing Scrabble, at least not with me. And I force him once a year. That's a must do in order for us to have a happy marriage. I know that there are other couples out there in the world that have the same problem. But anyway, I do like word games a lot. I like words, I like reading, I like writing, all that kind of stuff. So I like to play with words and put them together. It's weird in my mind. I always, try to make the most awesome word, not maybe the longest one or the funniest one, but the awesomest or most awesome word, meaning words that we don't really use in daily life, stuff like that. So I go for those. And thus I enjoyed this game immensely, of course. And the greatest thing about Paperback is that all the vowels are playable with wildcards, meaning we could very easily play this game in English or in German. So we could use the wildcards for the umlauts as well. So that was...
Those dark, terrible animals, the umlauts.
Yeah.
Nobody else, almost nobody else uses them. German is an annoying
French
language.
People have umlauts as well.
Don't they call them le umlaut?
Oh, for
My
God's
French
sake.
is impeccable.
Yes.
Le umlaut.
Yeah, Yeah, well, is it
I'm terribly
le or
sorry
la?
for everybody who actually...
No. Now the nerd comes in. Hold on. He's not, he never learned French, so he maybe does not know that you have an L apostrophe if the word that you are having the article in front is starting with a vowel. So l'umlaut would be the way to convey the article word if umlaut would be a French word. So well done, honey. He has a perfect star. You're awesome word magician in my book. Anyway, so I like that you could pretty much play it with any I'd say at least European language that use this alphabet. I wouldn't go so far. Well, maybe it's a bit difficult with Hungarian and Finnish, because they do use hardly any vowels and very, very many consonants. But that would be a bit different. And if you take away, let's take French, and you don't really care that, for example, on this ER card, there's no accent aigu or accent grave. You just taking those, like we take the umlauts, for example. You could play it in pretty much any language that you like, meaning you could learn or enforce learning languages. Building words when you start learning a new language in just a very playful way. Or you can really go for the nerdy things or the themed things, saying, for example, we are going to play a game tonight that is only revolving around, I don't know what, food, maybe. And you can...
Late rule edition, things I forgot just 10 minutes ago. Things you're allowed to form with these cards are only, words that are not names. No proper names, no places, no persons, so...
No brands.
So you're supposed to...
So Microsoft is not a thing to build here, but Apple is fine. Just saying.
Microphone would be fine.
That would be fine as well.
Actually, that's more challenging getting all those. But please.
Yeah, but I like that you can that the game gives you enough space to add on things at your on your own, or change it up to your liking, adding modules, leaving modules, creating themes, choosing a language to play this game in. There's enough of room with this game that lets you kind of, personalize the game for you and your gaming group. So that's actually the biggest like that I do have about this game, is that we could pick a theme that is maybe totally weird, that we're maybe not as familiar with, like, well, maybe you're more, but me not, chemicals or chemistry, and then only build words with that somehow go into that area section of chemistry, things like that. You could do it. You don't have to. You can.
That
have challenges
might be more difficult, unless you go for chemical symbols. Although
not that much. But we played co-op last night, and we're gonna go into that experience in the next section. But I would actually like to have that kind of a challenge for a co-op game. Maybe not so much for a competitive game, but for a co-op game, I just, like we had last night, I would have liked to have added a theme or something to spice it up a bit for us. So yeah, these are my 2 cents. It's actually more than 17 for the what's it? Lady of the West. The West was a man's world, and then she came along. Page turner. So yeah.
Let him have the Devil's Bride, the pirate card. My thoughts. Sarah already mentioned that I'm not super excited by playing Scrabble, and the reason for that is, to me, Scrabble almost always feels like he who knows the most 3-letter or 4-letter words wins the game, because it's kind of more a memory type of game, and obviously you need the luck of the draw to have the letters to form whatever you want. That problem is immediately solved by this being a deck building game. You kind of only have to blame yourself if you end up with 5 N's on hand. Not that it would ever happen.
Experiences, babe. We do have a section about that.
I still hate those N's. But that it feels like, even though you may not be able to use every card on hand every turn, but I always had the feeling, except for very rare occasions, where I had real trouble forming cards, and that usually ends up with if you only have consonants on hand, and the common card is maybe something like this. So you like the non-vowel cards, which makes it really difficult to do anything, because Grumpelwumpf is not a word. And
not?
No.
Oh.
So that makes it immediately way more enjoyable to me than something like Scrabble. I also really like the idea of these wild cards, so that you almost always have at least one card on hand available to you that can stand in for that one vowel that you're missing, or that one consonant to make the word more interesting, or to glue something together and work something out. Even though, and I also like that they are worth nothing, because that's kind of the price you pay for having too many of those wild cards in your deck. You may be able to form long words every time, but they are not worth a lot, which is a valid strategy. And having those different paths to focus on is also interesting. I mean, there's a lot of valid ways how you may form your strategy in this game. You can either try to pick up cards who predominantly give you more cards on hand to make things more impressive, or you can pick up cards that give you just a card for free for a certain amount, or you can go for cards that increase, double, triple, whatever the value of what you have available, or just go for the cards that are worth a bunch and try to make words out of those because you can something. So there's different ways to approach that and to win. Even the fact that you can win by buying out these fame cards versus just building long words and trying to get the common cards and initiating the end game with that. I very much do like this. I also like that all those little modules and variations pretty much allow you to pick and choose and do whatever game you want to play. The game manual recommends you start without the attack cards for starters, and I would wholeheartedly agree to that. Not because I'm averse to being a dick like Charles Dickens. No, Moby Dick, was it? The other Dick, right. In this game and trying to annoy other players, the major reason to leave them out, I think, for the first couple of rounds, or even depending on what people you're playing with, is that these attack cards actually slow the game down quite a bit. Because you play them, and that might be a tiny nag against it, but you play them while it's cool that you mess up everybody else's plan who's now has to deal with your attack card. They also tried to figure out a word the entire time from the last time they had their turn until they get to their turn again. So now you probably screwed up the word that they were at least confident in building, and now they have to do it again. Kind of prolonging the entire thing for everybody. And I don't know about you, but I'm not too happy about agonizing over cards. I'm happy about finding words, but sometimes you just look at them and feel stupid. And that's not a cool thing, I personally feel about this. But fortunately, you can leave this out, and this game does minimize that feeling very well, which is why I very much like it. And if I had to pick one, this would immediately replace Scrabble for me forever. But yeah, we still get to play Scrabble
once a year, babe. You have to. You can also think about the new theme that we're gonna have with the next game of Scrabble, because that actually makes it a bit of fun, just like with this variant that I said. You could also just go with a theme for Scrabble and then try to have all the words only for
So I'll take the Mission Impossible theme.
Okay.
Dum, dum, dum. So doot, 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 doot. DMCA, doot, doot, doot.
I would let you do that just because it's awesomely cool.
You need a lot of letters for that. Doot, doot, doot. Whatever.
Imagine the whole board just be D-U, 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 you laying down doo-doo and me laying down doo-doo-doo.
Yep.
Oh, I would love that. Yep.
This works.
Pick a theme for our next Scrabble adventure.
I also like with this game the idea that there's a co-op version in there, which is, well, that was surprising to find that in there, but I don't mind it. I found it a little bit, I don't want to say uninspired, but there are other games that have me more engaged in the entire ordeal of getting rid of these cards and forming words and being under pressure. Maybe some things I was thinking about why we were playing that, and maybe we try that out at another time, is not just to have a pyramid of fame cards and trying to get rid of them, but instead of buying those cards, the conditions are that you have to form words that, for example, fit these themes or different themes, and put you under that kind of pressure. Although I guess that might be a tad difficult depending on how everything else is.
Well, if you have a wordsmith with you in your gaming group, you might just be fine in a co-op version.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have one with you, but you have one with you. So,
but that might be also an interesting way of doing that. I said it before, but I like the modularity of this game. And even if there's some stuff you don't like, if you don't like these trash cards, you could remove them, and nobody
will ever know.
It's totally up to you, and it is surprisingly fast to play. But I have to second your disappointment. The card quality is surprisingly not that great. I do like the feel of the cards. They have these, what are they called?
They feel like canvas. They have these slight indentations
there's
in them.
a name for that I'm totally blanking on. I think
it's a wild card that you have in your hand.
It's a specific type of cloth that is used to whatever. So yeah, it has this.
Feels like a canvas, like fabric.
Wit is the technical term of this.
Yeah, so do you write that with a T or with a D at the end?
It's almost the same as the Lords of Waterdeep cards, which also suffer from the same problem, although they're nice to hold and they feel very grippy through that. But you can see the edges are already losing the color, which... it's not too bad, and I mean that's I don't see our love letter game, which we had to buy again because we played it so many times and the cards just went away. And this isn't a terribly expensive game, and I don't mind that a game might get used up. It's a sign of the game being good because it's being played. Although it is I know people who might be annoyed by that, so it's just worth mentioning. Yeah. Don't take it too hard as a criticism. And if you really dislike it, you could sleeve your cards. I just personally dislike the feel of those thick sleeved cards and shuffling them. That's I actually, before going through the ordeal of sleeving all those cards and buying the sleeves, I just buy the game anew, which may not be the option for everybody, and it's perfectly fine, but it's just not for me. The other thing to say, I mentioned the game is quick to play. The game itself says it goes or should go for 45 minutes. Obviously, depending on player count and if you allow electronic devices connected to the internet, not hunting for Pokemons, but actually being able to look up words, because that slows down the game quite a bit. And you might bring the banhammer out and say, no, whatever devices that allow you to look up stuff, but sometimes you want to look up stuff, and well, it's your rules, your house. You just might want to consider that. It's 2 to 5 players, and says ages 10 and up, which I think is fine. Again, this is one of the games where you have a clear advantage knowing more stuff. If you have a pretty large vocabulary, you are pretty good to go. I also liked very much, I mean, you pretty much explained that the cards are fine to or great to be used with other languages as well, mostly because of those wild cards and how you deal with special characters and dealing with that. We tried different approaches of, like the umlaut. A typical way to note an umlaut is either by using the corresponding vowel and an E, so AE would be A. But instead, then we pretty much resolved to saying, well, you can just use a wildcard for that, or the AE notation if you really wanted to, but it still just counts as one letter. So it's up to you, but I think that's great because even though there's English text on these cards, the cards are simple enough, and even if you play with someone who does not speak English, you could just explain to them what that means on their turn, because unless you're playing maybe with the attack cards, you don't necessarily have to keep your hand a secret. You can just put it down and think about that. The other thing that might affect that is if you are going for these common cards. If you see that the player before you is going for the 8-letter card, you probably might want to do another word than your 8-letter word or something like that. But that's just minor stuff, and you can easily house rule that or figure that out. And I think it is one of those games that, is great for learning stuff, which not a lot of games do that, or games that try to do that don't do that usually very well. And I don't think that this game was set out to do that, but it is pretty good for doing that.
And it still accomplishes the task pretty nicely.
Yeah, for example, I know now romantic words. I never knew them before.
Bed tin was one of the words he needed help to form. Very romantic.
I now know that sparkle is a romantic word.
It's a romance word, not a romantic word. There's a very heavy difference between romantic and romance.
I'm sorry.
Especially if it's paranormal romance.
I'm sorry. I was actually messing that up. It's a paranormal word, as romance is, obviously.
Have you never read The Vicious Triangle? It's an awesome book. It's by my favorite author, Page Turner.
And I'm pretty sure that romance is a very out-of-this-world experience.
Is it?
It's paranormal.
No.
You can't romance unless you sparkle.
Well, thank God you're sparkling.
That actually, I could just be, I didn't clean that part.
Well, sparkle is also the bubbles in water, so that would
Next section is gameplay experience.
No. First rating. Shake your arm, babe. 1, 2, 3. Thumbs up as well here. Thumbs up. He's a very
literate duck.
Yeah. He reads with me.
Literally duck.
He's a Psyduck.
Or Anton, which is your German Pokemon lesson of the day.
Yes. So now, for reals, last section. Well, second to last section. Funny stories and experiences. Now, honey, why did you struggle forming the word bad tin? Why did you not come up with it on your own? I mean, he had a wild card, so you can have the funniest words that are maybe not even words, but they're just funny to you, especially if you play not in your native language. So he, at one point, was just pretty pissed off with not being able to form a word. He had a lot of non-vowels at his hand.
Binted is obviously.
Yeah, and he asked me if he was allowed to lay down the word inboned, which I find hilarious. I looked it up. It's sadly not a word, but I found it very hilarious.
Sometimes you get to score words that are just worth because they're funny.
Yes, and
might be a house rule.
That's not a word, but let's see what else we can do. So we had the Sinbad, which is right down the alley to inboned.
Bad sin might also.
Bad sin, yeah. So we just had a lot of fun. He was not pissed off anymore because then once I said, well, you could lay down bad sin, I would allow that word. And he said, no, bad tin, that's a word. That's a real word. And then he could score. So you can just have a lot of fun with your significant other having the, let's say, romantic words as a theme for your game.
Ohrkatzelschwaf. Which is the Bavarian lesson of the day. No, it's not a word. It's even Germans don't consider that a word because Bavarian is not a language.
It's a dialect.
It's a travesty.
It's a dialect.
Actually, that wasn't the word that I was the most frustrated by. It was
the most funny words. I found that so funny that you came up with a smirk on the face that he sometimes has in the videos. Honey, would you accept inboned? It's like, yeah, celebrating with your word wizardry there. I liked it. Was a funny experience. But you were frustrated with what word?
I was more frustrated with, while playing this game, I was playing this more like a deck building game than a word building game. And I was like, yeah, this card is worth much, and this gives me this ability. And I followed that and did not really consider that I would end up with like 4 N's on hand, which is like, I am.
And no is not a word. And we played German that round. We played with the attack cards with our friends.
There's a lot of words with 4 N's in them. Like
Nennen. We played German. N-E-N-N-E-N.
Actually, that would work.
I know. Like I said, I'm the wordsmith. Just ask me if you can. I get a cube. It's fine. Thank you. So, yeah, but we had
Sadak, go! Oh, Sadak is already here.
We had awesome words. And question: did you like it better in German or in English? I mean, the English games, just the two of us playing German ones. We played with 4.
It is actually different because I know a lot more words in English that use less letters. So in German, you might end up with some rounds, or at least I ended up with more rounds where I had a hard time trying to come up with short words, where I immediately found an English word to do that. Specifically 2, 3, or 4 letter words that had just one vowel available.
Yeah.
And there's some of those in German too, but
it was difficult.
There's a lot of oil in German, a lot of Öl, because we had like, I have a wild card and an L or something like that.
Yeah, and we had the common card where you could lay down 2 words. So there was a lot of Öl and a lot of or S, which is he or it in the English. So it's way simpler or faster to play in English, but I actually like that the German version a lot because I mean, you can just be creative. Like you were saying, what am I gonna buy? The W or the V? Which letter is in more words? What could I do? I said V because fair, for, like the prefix. What's it in English? The prefix. Is it the same?
Prefix.
Prefix.
Oh, prefix.
Prefix.
Not the postfix.
No. So there's a lot of V in German, and he was still going for the W because all the questions, the what, who, and when, also start with W in German, and there's only 2 or 3 letters there to form a word, and you were playing the safe way, and I was just playing the creative way. If I had the choice, I always went for the cards that had 2 letters on them. Because I just like to have long words. It's like, what are you looking at me like
Live long and prosper with the V?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Something like that. So, that was very enjoyable.
The other thing, and I alluded to that in the likes and dislikes, when playing with 4 people and the attack cards, I think I was the only one who bought attack cards, at least for the beginning, and I played one, and it was immediately 3 people at the tree.
I had to hold my friends back to not. They would have maybe
because they were not my friends anymore. It seems
not at that point. Not when you play 4 rounds in a row and have attack cards played. It's like what the heck.
The good thing with the attack cards, at least, is that you play them. They are in front of you an entire turn and only then go back to your stack. So
but he had more than one attack card.
You might not get to that attack card for some time.
You had either 2 or 3 attack cards, and they were in constant rotation, to our dismay. And we didn't like you for that. But you made nice words, Heman and stuff like that. So.
Richter.
A lot of sexual innuendos again.
Richter. No?
No, stop it. It was a very enjoyable evening playing that game with the friends. So Yeah. Any other stories? Did I miss something? Oh yeah, the co-op was we lost because on the last card, because the common card was ending the game before we got to the 17 cents books. And that was unfortunate, but the next round, if it would have been my turn, I would have been able to buy that card for us. So it was really like one move that we were short of winning. But it felt throughout...
it wasn't the common card. We had 5 cubes on that.
Did we have 5 cubes? Oh, yeah. One or the other.
I mean, the rules are actually not super clear on that. So in the co-op mode, I just assumed you play with the common cards. But the way we play this was that once you form a word that has as many letters as the current common card, you must take it. Kind of as another small difficult bit where you might not want to form a word that is too long, because then you are denying you and your partner probably from a very fortunate vowel that is available to you up to the last card. And we just made it that the game didn't end if the last common card is taken, but that kind of the punishment then is that there's no common card available anymore. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the idea behind it was a bit different, but
the house rule.
We could have made that. I think we pretty much just lost because we should have drawn out buying the cheap cards a little bit more and try to get more of the high value cards into our deck to consistently have a high value.
Yeah, but funny enough, throughout playing until the last, let's say, 2 or 3 rounds, it felt almost too easy, and I don't want to say boring, but kind of blah for the co-op version. This is the point where I'd say, okay, let's spice it up with just having a certain theme or something, just to not always lay down oil.
And it also it starts more depending on the value of your card and the special abilities of your card. So while at the beginning you have this interesting choice: do I want to pick a letter, or do I want to try to get rid of one of the cards that might have a lot of cubes on them? Later on, you must have cards that give you more cards at hand, or that are really high value or have some combo potential to even get to those 17 cents. But that's more than a luck of the draw kind of thing, and less of a... I mean, it is strategy related because you had to make the right choices leading up to that. But sometimes you just don't get the cards on hand that you would need. I mean, another thing I could imagine, maybe for a co-op version, that we add in something like that you can support another player with the
letter
hand,
something like that,
or something like
that. We should definitely try that, because we were usually just 1 letter short for buying the higher value cards.
That might actually be a way to work out the common card differently, that maybe someone on his turn, instead of using a card in his word, can commit that card, or maybe even out of turn can commit that card to the common cards. And since you can buy the vowels from those 2-cent cards, that might also be an interesting thing, that you pick up those cards and you, instead of doing an awesome word, you contribute that so that your teammates get to build more interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
And those then don't get used up, but they are available unless they're replaced by some other word, and might even allow you to put these high value words on there. So there might be an interesting way of using that.
Yeah.
Maybe the game was getting too easy with that, but actually the manual says you can adjust the difficulty of the co-op mode by just reducing the amount of cubes that you are allowed to put on a card until you lose. So
you can always make it harder. You can play with face-down letters.
You can play exactly. You can play with face-down cards, and then buy them blind. That's a kind of in-joke, because one of our friends said that about Elder Sign, that it would be way more fun if you would play Elder Sign with the rooms face down, and you are surprised by the room once you enter it. And I think he thought the game was too easy. I think he just had a lot of luck rolling dice up till that, because we tried that and it's like
Yeah, very much so.
the game beating us all over.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's quickly wrap up the video because the battery is running low.
I want to have a guess.
You want to have a guess?
Next Wednesday.
Should have prepared this.
Yes.
God damn it.
There's no vowels in there if you're looking for those.
No, I'm not.
And don't spell it out, because that isn't...
I'm not.
The battery...
Yeah. It's...
Meep, 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 meep.
Now you have to be creative.
Meep, 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 meep.
Oh, that's actually not right. Hold it.
Meep, meep.
There's the one. Then we have to have another. Oh, there.
Meep.
So these are
Meep.
These are your letters, form a word, and then from there deduct what game we are going to paint.
A game of shams.
No.
But I get a next. Extra card instead.
No, we're going for the dropper initiative here.
A game of ham.
No, all the letters have to be used.
Shazam.
I'm gonna Shazam you in a minute here.
I don't wanna.
Ass. No.
I'm just going.
No. It's actually it's
a mesh.
No, you have to use all the. It's not that difficult, for God's sake. It's a 5-letter word.
The funny thing is, I actually don't know what word she's. No, don't. It's my task. I still have. Oh, the battery's not out. Goodbye.
No, I'm gonna replace battery.
No, I think you have a good chance. If you figure it out, please leave a comment below and tell me what word I was not able to do. I'm pretty sure.
Also, like, share, subscribe. Goodbye, everybody. Till next week.
We let you return to your Pokemon endeavors, like the rest of the world obviously is now.
Bye.
We need to go hunting. Goodbye.